Hey everyone, welcome back to Split Decision. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury WBC Heavyweight Championship matchup, a recap of that. And I guess where we'll start with this is the walkouts. I mean, both these guys came out in some very elaborate costumes. We had Tyson Fury coming out looking like a king in a throne, having women carry him to the ring. So, I mean, that was interesting. And then, of course, you had Deontay Wilder's outfit.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fitting for Tyson Fury, considering his nickname is the Gypsy King, because he's an Irish, descendant of Irish travelers and gypsies in the UK. But yeah, it's super entertaining, super elaborate. I mean, this is one of the things that, like, sometimes when boxing is kind of absurd in the showmanship, it ends up being kind of fantastic, Like, sometimes you see guys come out and do this crazy shit, but they haven't really earned it, or it's not warranted, or, whatever. But when you see, like, two of the top three heavyweights who've been not only, like, verbally jabbing and, bickering over the internet or whatever, but are two of the biggest personalities in boxing and are both such giant personalities. You have your Anthony Joshua, but he's kind of like a soft-spoken guy. He's the third heavyweight to this kind of love triangle equation here in the heavyweight division. But Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder are both very prominent, very distinct personalities. So for them to both come out in such kind of like over the top fashion just makes sense, and it kind of adds to the fight itself. I thought it was great. And Deontay Wilder came out in this, like, crazy, like, upper body armor getup with, like, a skull on his face and a crown, and, like, his eyes glowed red and all this crazy stuff. And it reportedly cost like $60,000.
It didn't look like something you would wear to, like, go to a boxing match.
No. And I heard somebody on a podcast say that it looked like a bedazzled Mardi Gras outfit or something, which I guess is fitting because it's Mardi Gras yesterday, but. It's just kind of hilarious, and especially looking at the difference between the two fighters ahead of the fight. Like, we would seeing, when I was watching the fight card, ahead of that, we were seeing backstage footage of each fighter, and Tyson Fury was sitting in the crowd just watching the fights, like, with his girlfriend or wife or whoever it was. And Deontay Wilder's in the back already wrapping up, getting himself hyped up and everything. And then not only is, like, Tyson Fury just chilling for hours ahead of time, but then he comes out getting carried to the cage in a chair. It's like, man, the persona and the mystique that he built in, like, the lead up to that fight was just brilliant. And I think it was great. I think the whole thing on both sides was great. But it doesn't seem to have worked out for everyone, as we'll talk about a little later with Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, right. So as far as the way the fight went, I mean, it ended in a technical knockout with Tyson Fury winning. Before we get into, like, really analyzing what went on in the fight at a high level and all that, I just want to say what, like, shocked me the most is, like, do you remember the part, I don't forget which round this was, but where Tyson Fury's, like, licking him?
Yeah.
He was, like, licking the blood off of him when they were, like, up against the ropes. And I was like, what the hell? I've, like, never seen anything like this before.
It was a little outlandish. I mean, and like I said, Tyson Fury is an over-the-top personality. And he had said in a bunch of interviews before this fight, like, he was talking all sorts of bravado. Like, I'm going to knock him out in the second round and all this shit. And everybody's like, that's insane. And he said, what he said before the fight was, I want to taste blood. So then he goes into the fight, and after he's beaten, I think that was like the 5th round or something. So after he's beaten Deontay Wilder down for 5 rounds, they're up against the ropes and kind of clinching and about to get a stoppage, not a stoppage, but a break in the action. And Tyson Fury just puts his tongue out and seemingly licks Deontay Wilder's, like, shoulder neck area after Deontay Wilder's, like, bleeding out of the ear and everything. I mean, it's insane. I don't know if he actually licked him. It's kind of hard to tell from, like, the camera angle, but either way, I mean, like I said, it just adds to the kind of over-the-top bravado and personality of the whole thing. I mean, that just, like, it made it more entertaining.
I mean, are there, like, any rules in boxing about that? Like, putting your
No, I mean,
tongue on the fighter? Like,
no, I mean, they have rules against biting people's ears off. Now, Mike Tyson. You know, which, actually, another funny moment, they had Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield in the ring together right before the fight. They honored 3 of the best heavyweights in history, and Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and... oh, God, I don't remember the third guy. It doesn't matter. But, yeah, I mean, no, there's no rules against anything like that. I mean, if anything, that's just taunting, you know? Like, you can talk shit all you want. You can slap a guy in the face if you want. I assume. I don't know. I mean, there's no rule against it as far as I'm aware. It's just weird.
So, Deontay Wilder got knocked down, twice in this fight?
Yeah, he got dropped twice before his corner threw in the towel in the 7th round, yeah.
And so you would say a pretty thoroughly just dominant performance for the Gypsy King all the way, or was there any part of the fight where you thought he looked a little off his game, or was he just like in control the whole time?
No, dude, he just came out and just dominated the whole time. I mean, there were I think at least one judge gave Deontay Wilder the first round, and Deontay Wilder had a little bit of success in that first round. He landed a couple of his big shots that he wants to land, but Tyson Fury switched up his game plan, which I initially was worried about. Before the fight, Tyson Fury's out there saying, I'm gonna stand in front of him, I'm gonna sit down on my punches, I'm gonna throw bigger shots, I'm gonna try to knock him out. And I'm sitting here thinking that is a horrible idea against the dude that punches harder than anyone we've seen in history in Deontay Wilder. But turns out that Tyson Fury's head movement and, you know, control of the distance was enough for him to not actually take many of those punches. You know, Deontay Wilder landed a couple of his big right hands, but, you know, it was always when Tyson Fury's kind of rolling away from the punch, you know. Wilder throws that big overhand right, it's coming over Fury's left shoulder. If he's moving away and turning away from it, it's not going to land with that much force. So none of Wilder's, like, you know, his fight-ending shot, none of them really landed. Obviously, I mean, he didn't end the fight. But it was Tyson Fury just outboxing the whole time. It was pretty astounding. And I kind of, you know, that's what we saw in the first fight, was Tyson Fury outboxing Deontay Wilder the whole time. But I think what happened, and I think the real difference is in Tyson Fury's approach, right? He said he's going to sit down on his punches and try to knock Deontay Wilder out. I think what happened is Fury ate Wilder's best shots in the first fight, 2 of them, and got back up. So what we see a lot of times when we see big punchers in boxing who rely on that one-shot knockout power like a Mike Tyson. And this, if you listen to Teddy Atlas talk about Mike Tyson, this is one of his main gripes of Mike Tyson, is a lot of guys know how to be the hammer, but they don't know how to be the nail. The moment that someone comes in there and eats their best shot and keeps coming forward and hurts them in return, they don't know how to stay in the game. You know, and that's what Teddy Atlas will tell you that happened to Mike Tyson. The moment somebody stood up to him and matched him, he crumbled. And I'm not saying that Deontay Wilder crumbled or that he gave up or anything. But what I am saying is that as soon as it became evident that Tyson Fury not only wasn't scared of Deontay Wilder's power, but wasn't going to respect his power enough to be hesitant or to try to move away from the punches, and was going to sit right in front of him and throw back the biggest shots he could, it completely threw off Wilder's game plan. Wilder's whole game is built around landing that big right hand. He does have good setups, and he does typically throw jabs and stuff, but I mean, Fury's the best boxer in the heavyweight division, bar none. I think he handles Anthony Joshua as well, who's one of the other top fighters in the division, along with like Andy Ruiz and Luis Ortiz, but I think Fury's a better boxer than all of them. So, you know, as much as I want to say his setups didn't look good in this fight, he's also facing the best boxer he could possibly face in his division. So saying that his setups didn't look good or he wasn't as diverse striking game or whatever kind of does him a little bit of a disservice, in the sense that He's fighting the guy who's best equipped to make everyone look stupid. But, that being said, it kind of ended up happening, you know. Tyson Fury's footwork was too good. His head movement was too good. The diversity in the strikes that he was throwing was too good. And Wilder just had no answer for it. I think Wilder outstruck Tyson Fury in only one stat, and it was in jabs. He landed one more jab than Tyson Fury did, which actually says a lot about the difference in his game this time versus the last time, because the last time he didn't land many jabs at all. You really didn't see him throwing jabs until the later rounds when he started to realize that just searching for that right hand wasn't going to work and he needed to set it up a little bit. So it shows you that Deontay Wilder was looking to set up his big power shot more than he was in the first fight. But since Tyson Fury was able to figure him out at the end of that first fight and carry it into the next fight and improve his game plan, come in with a little more weight so he could throw with a little more power, it didn't really matter all that much how much Deontay Wilder wanted to change his game.
But what we also have to talk about is how Deontay Wilder blamed his loss on his entrance costume.
Yeah. So, Wilder didn't look particularly good in this fight. And a lot of people are saying something was wrong with Wilder. And Wilder said after the fight, he had a lot of stuff going on outside of the ring, and don't necessarily know what that is yet. A lot of people were saying he just didn't look like himself. To me, I talked to somebody at work today who said, after that punch, he just didn't look right. I think he was compromised by that punch, so the rest of the fight is kind of discounted. That's not really Wilder fighting anymore. What I'm saying is, yeah, he got messed up for the rest of the fight because Fury messed him up. It doesn't, if he's compromised after that, it's not he just happened to get caught and he wasn't himself for the rest of the fight. It's no, Fury beat the shit out of him and compromised him for the rest of the fight, so Fury earned that victory. It's not Wilder wasn't as good after that shot landed. Fury landed a big shot and completely destroyed Wilder to the point where he couldn't fight the same anymore. That being said, a lot of people are saying that he didn't look good from the beginning. Didn't have his legs under him and everything. And one of his head coaches blamed the pre-fight outfit. They said, he walked out to the ring with a 40-pound get-up on, and that sapped all his energy.
I mean, again, that's kind of on you at that point, if that's even
That's
true.
the lamest excuse.
But the thing is, no one makes you go to the ring wearing a certain outfit.
No.
So even if it's true, it's still kind of bullshit that he would use that as an excuse.
Bullshit. It's absurd. And the other thing is it's kind of scary. So there's a couple things that happened after the fight, right? His head coach came out, blamed that. Wilder, immediately after the fight, Wilder blamed outside of the ring circumstances. Wilder blamed the outfit, and then Wilder fired. I saw a report that Wilder fired the one guy in his corner that had the sense to throw in the towel. Wilder fired the coach that threw the towel in and stopped the fight. To quote Wilder, not to quote him, but to paraphrase Wilder, he said, if I'm talking about the possibility of killing a guy in the ring, I need to be willing to do the same thing. I need to go out on my shield. I want to get put away. I don't want my corner to stop it. That is the dumbest mindset you can have. I don't understand why you would sit there and go, if I'm beat already, please let me get more CTE. I want Parkinson's later in life. You idiot. No. This guy stopped him from getting punched in the head by an almost 300-pound man in Tyson Fury. Wilder had no answer. He was basically unresponsive. And his corner had the sense to throw in the towel and say, enough is enough. We're not going to win this fight. I don't care what the fighter wants. I'm doing this for his own good. And Wilder fired him. It's the dumbest thing. But also, that stupid excuse about the outfit. It's just ridiculous. And these are things that you don't like to see happen after a fight. Especially after a big loss like this. Especially after your first loss as a pro fighter. You don't want to see a very high-profile fight where a guy comes in and loses as badly as Wilder does and then blames everything except for himself for the loss. That's not a good mindset to have. We've seen that before. I've seen that in boxing. I've seen that in MMA. People come in, they lose the biggest fight of their career, and they go, well, all this extra shit. It wasn't me that lost the fight. It was all this other stuff. All this crap was going on, and the cards were stacked against me. It's not my fault. And so what they do is they come back without changing anything, without really being critical of their own performance, of their own preparation, of what happened in the fight, without being critical of the opposing fighter. It's not a good mindset to come out of this fight with if you want to take the rematch, which he probably will. There's a rematch clause in both of their contracts. Wilder has 30 days to say that he wants that rematch, and Fury has to give it to him. But if we're looking at a guy who's saying, well, I was having family problems, and I wore that 40-pound thing, and this coach sucks, I'll win next time. What does that tell you? He's not going to go out and say, oh, my game plan was wrong, or my cardio wasn't as good, or I was dehydrated, or my diet was off, or whatever.
But I mean, you figure he will take the rematch, right? Because, I mean, it's a chance to get a title back.
I think he will. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think he beats Fury. I think he will take the rematch because, A, another title shot, B, the biggest money fight he can take. He's not going to make more money in any other fight than fighting Fury, especially after how big this fight was. He's definitely going to make more money. That being said, I don't want to see that fight. I don't think that... I don't... Especially hearing how Wilder's reacting after his loss. You know, with Wilder coming out and saying it's not his fault that he lost, essentially. Like, there's nothing to make you think that it would go any differently. He's not critical of his own performance. He's not saying my setups weren't good. He's not saying I didn't have my legs under me, my cardio wasn't good. He's not saying anything to the effect of how he could actually improve his performance or his camp or his coaching or anything to do better in the next fight. He's making a shitload of excuses and thinking, well, I'll just come in and do the same old, and it'll get me the win like it always has. That didn't work the last 2 times. Why would it work the 3rd time? I don't think it will. I think he will take the rematch because that's who he, I mean, you're a professional fighter on the highest level. That ego is crazy. Which, again, is why you can't admit that you're the reason you lost, right?
But on the other hand, the first fight was a draw, right? And Wilder knocked him down.
Twice.
In that fight. So if he was able to knock him down, that tells you he's got that puncher's chance of knocking him out.
Yeah, but he wasn't able to put him out. He got back up both times and then went on to win the rest of the fight. If you watch that fight with an objective, critical eye, Fury won that fight. The only reason it was a draw is because Wilder got 2 knockdowns and a couple judges may have given him some rounds they shouldn't have. Most of the people who watched that fight think Fury won. I personally think that Fury has now beat Wilder twice. And he didn't watch the first fight and come back and make any giant improvements. He made a little bit of improvement. He threw his jab a little bit more. But outside of that, there was nothing. It was just a little bit more busy punches as opposed to, just not punching at all and looking for that right hand. He didn't really change up his pressure approach. He didn't really change up his footwork or anything. He didn't have more head movement. He just threw a couple more jabs, and that's about it. So, I mean, nothing improved from the first fight to the second fight from Wilder drastically. But everything improved from the first fight to the second fight for Fury drastically. One of those guys went, okay, I didn't win that fight. What did I do wrong and what can I do better? And one of those guys went, I was that close to winning. I should have won it. I'm going to do the same thing next time. And guess what? Next time comes, and the guy who looked at it and said, I didn't win, I need to do better, came in and dominated the whole thing. And it doesn't sound like to me at this point that Wilder is approaching this second loss, but the second fight any differently in the aftermath than he did the first one. Sounds to me like he's going, I was that close, or it was this other reason. I'll win it next time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, what fight would you rather see instead?
I mean, like I said, I think that, the ego in the fighter, and the opportunity to win a title and get the most money you possibly can is gonna drive Wilder to take that rematch. Don't think he'll win it. I don't think it's a good call. I think he should, or I think if he does take the rematch, I think he should wait the full 30 days, announce it on that 30th day, give himself as much time as possible to A, physically recover, and B, work on some stuff to come back and look better. But personally, I want to see, I just want to know who the best heavyweight is. I want to see, all we've been talking about in heavyweight boxing is these three guys that are circling each other. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and Anthony Joshua. And they've all been kind of circling each other, talking about fighting, whatever. For a long time, Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz and then came back and won his title back. So it's been a whole mess. But Anthony Joshua has 4 titles. Tyson Fury has 1. Both from the UK. Both heavyweights, completely different styles, but a really fun fight. I want to see Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, which would be the biggest boxing match in UK history. And the biggest boxing match I think that you could make right now with any fighter, save maybe Mayweather-Pacquiao if Mayweather decides to come back. But I think it's a great time for UK boxing. I think it's a great time for heavyweight boxing, which we haven't seen since the 90s. But that Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury fight is a real interesting fight.
Has there been any buzz about Mayweather coming back?
A little bit. He's always kind of... Mayweather
What was that whole thing with, he was going to do UFC or something like that? Remember he was, acting like he was going to do MMA?
Mayweather might not know how to read, but he's not stupid. He is not going to go into a cage. Under no...
I've seen videos of him, trying to, warm up and, do that shit.
Dude, no. No
so that's just a stunt.
Way, dude. Dude, you put Mayweather against, a prelim fighter in the UFC, dude's going to ankle pick him and ground and pound him. You ever see Randy Couture versus James Toney? Randy Couture ankle picks him, doesn't get anywhere near his fists, grabs him by the foot, drags him to the ground, and then beats the hell out of him and chokes him out eventually. Mayweather is not dumb enough to get into a cage. And that's the thing is, there's always going to be the MMA versus boxing debate or whatever. But when it comes down to it, no high-level guy is going to beat the other in their own sport. Conor McGregor is never going to beat Floyd Mayweather. Conor McGregor is probably never going to beat any high-level boxer. Conor McGregor is not going to beat Lomachenko or Pacquiao or Canelo Alvarez or Gennady Golovkin. They spend all their time doing that one thing, and Conor McGregor is out here wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu and stuff, but they're not going to ever come into the cage and beat him. No, they're not. No boxer is going to walk into an MMA cage and convince the fighter not to go for a takedown if they get punched too hard. You know what I mean? It's just not.
I mean, but
so
could you have a situation where a boxer goes and does that, but just works on his takedown defense so he never gets in that position?
You could, but how good can your takedown defense be? If a guy is boxing right now at the professional level at 19 and starts training takedown defense in his off time after he full-time trains as a boxer and then comes into MMA in 5 years, maybe. But if you have an MMA fighter who's been doing, taking people down and grappling for a decade, and then a boxer who's been training takedown defense for 6 months in a camp, come on. What are we doing here,
Well, it's always good to ask the questions.
That's like Tim Tebow saying he's going to be a professional baseball player after going to camp for a summer.
Yeah, it didn't really work out that well.
Exactly. Doesn't tend to work out so well.
So anyways, thanks for watching. It was a hell of a fight. Real interesting what happened in that fight and what a result for Fury. And let's stay tuned to see what happens next in his career.
And I won't bet against Fury again.
Have a good night.
Ran a little longer than I was expecting. Y'all went for 25 minutes. Oh, Justin, before you
that's good questions.
No, that's good. Call Pat an asshole real quick.
Are you trying to force outtakes again?
No, I'm just trying to be funny.
Every time.
Hey, at least he wasn't sleeping for this